Hello there, guys. What is going on? Daniel Childs back here again for another podcast, another show, and this is a Chelsea transfer special. We know Chelsea are going to be busy in January. We've been speaking about Enzo Fernandez. We've been speaking about David Datro Fofana. We've been speaking about Andre Santos. I'm sure this is going to be a pretty mental month, but it is now confirmed, or at least when you are listening or watching this, Chelsea have made the signing of Benoit Badiashile from Monaco, the central defender. And I thought it'd be appropriate to get an expert on the player on, because I think for myself, didn't know a lot about the player. I'd certainly heard his name in European football, but getting more of an insight from someone who does know the player, his flaws, his journey to this point, and what he could offer Chelsea and Graham Potter in the upcoming weeks and months. Glad to say that Thymoté Pinon, who's a journalist at France Football, also worked for L'Equipe and has had work on Scouted Football, joins me. How you doing, mate?
Hi, everything's fine. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it, and I will try my best to provide you some good answers.
No worries. And I have to say, we met, funny enough, on just before the game against Bournemouth. A mutual friend, the brilliant Adam Newson, was there, and we were sort of speaking. And obviously, I think you were doing a piece about N'Golo Kante, who is now we found out since he's got a further injury. But how did you find the game? Because obviously, it was a good one from a Chelsea perspective.
Yeah. Good first half. It was a little bit more complicated during the second half,
Yeah.
but it was my first time in Stamford Bridge, so yeah, I enjoyed it, and thank you guys for the warm welcome. It was nice to meet you there.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. As I say, it was it was a rare good night in Chelsea's pretty difficult season. Hopefully you should attend more Chelsea games, so hopefully we'll start playing better. But let's get into the player. Are you surprised that Chelsea have gone in for him? I know this is a name that has been linked or at least known across Europe. We'll get into it a little bit later of one other major English club going in for him. But are you surprised at this point that Chelsea have gone out there and so effectively got the deal done?
No. I wasn't surprised at all. To be honest, maybe because I like the player, but as you said, there were a lot of interest from basically all over the Europe the previous years, the previous transfer windows.
Mm.
So actually, I was not so surprised, and I think we're gonna speak about him as a player, but I saw him played live at the middle of September for the French national team. I was in the stadium and I was like, why? I was trying to understand why it wasn't at that point in the French national team from more months, and why he wasn't in a top club. So no, I'm not surprised.
So looking at his journey getting to this point, obviously at Monaco, a decent sized European club, playing European football as well. What would you say about that journey and how he's developed as a player? Because he's still a young player. This is not someone is in the middle of his career. He's still got hopefully years to go and develop, but he clearly has done a lot at this stage to gain this interest from a top Premier League club.
Yeah. No, he's only 21, if I'm right, and so he's very promising since he's a kid. But yeah, at the beginning of his career, he made some mistakes on the pitch, maybe because one of his main quality is his passing abilities. So he likes to play good passes. Sometimes it's a little bit. It was maybe too much for some people. That's what we could read here in France back in the days. No, he became more. First of all, he became more aggressive, defensively speaking, and more focused on his game. And in a few months ago, he did a brilliant interview with a colleague of mine in L'Equipe, and he was saying that he changed his mindset, becoming more a leader, if we can say it this way, even if he's super young. But with that mentality, he said that it was easier to be focused every minute on the pitch, and yeah, to play maybe more as a defender, very focused on his defensive skills and everything. So yeah, I would say that he improved a lot, mentally speaking, and so he's making less and less mistake, and that's why Didier Deschamps called up with the French national team in September, I guess.
I know we spoke about maybe some confusion that you've already picked up on in France, why he hasn't featured more for an international team. And, especially at the World Cup, where France, despite some injuries, of course, still get to the final and were penalty shootout away from winning the thing. So not bad, from an England perspective. It'd be nice to be in that situation. But it's interesting looking at sort of him as a player and him not getting into that position. I mean, why didn't he say feature more for the national team for Deschamps?
Actually, like I told you, I was a little bit surprised because he did a brilliant game for his first called up, and that's not always that you, because sometimes you're being called by the French national manager, and then you're spend sometimes on the bench just to get the environment and everything. And for his first called up, he was a starter. It was against Austria at Le Stade de France, and yeah, as I told you, he played super well. He with the ball, without the ball. So it was, yeah, a brilliant first cap for him. And then it was a little bit more complicated in Denmark, but because of the fact that the team suffered a lot in Denmark, and he was playing with two young players around him, so it was a little bit more difficult for him. But honestly, it was a good first call up for him. So we were a bit surprised that he wasn't on the final list for the World Cup. I think he was surprised too. But it is sometimes the manager are doing their choices. And to be honest, we have a lot of very good centre back in France. So there were a lot of players, and he's still young. So I think his time will come. I'm sure about it.
As I say, I mean, sort of looking at it from the way sometimes there's been criticisms of the way the England team is picked is a sense that they come from the bigger clubs. Do you think that's a part of it? Is maybe part of the players' incentive to move to Chelsea is that he'll be in a bigger limelight, and maybe that will give him preference to get to play at the Euros in a couple of years' time.
Maybe, and that's funny because we have those kind of talks here in France, in the radio, in the media, saying that maybe it's easier to go to the national team when you're playing in a European club, which maybe makes sense. Even if there were some players from Monaco, from Marseille, in the French national squad at the World Cup. So I'm not so sure it's definitely the truth. But it could help, of course. And I think that it was the same thing with Fofana. He decided to join you guys to try to become to try to be in the French national team. So yeah, I think it could help, and yeah, we're talking a lot about it here in France those past few days. So yeah, that will be interesting to watch what will happen with Badiashile.
It's interesting you bring up Wesley Fofana because that could be a potential Chelsea back two or Chelsea defence, maybe a back three as well. And then also for France, that in the upcoming years, two young defenders who are going to now be playing at Chelsea. And I guess that's a good thing for Badiashile. And maybe those two players spoke to each other in the build up to this deal. I mean, that's going to be a nice thing personally for him, is that there are actually quite a few French speakers in Chelsea's squad. Edouard Mendy obviously played in Liga, Thiago Silva as well, as we know. So, I mean, that in itself is I guess, hopefully for him, a nice way to integrate into things at Chelsea.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, and yeah, that's I agree with you about Thiago Silva because every young player who played with him in a back two or in a back three made a lot of progress. We can think about Kimpembe in France, who played with him in Paris Saint-Germain, and so yeah, I think this environment could be a great one for Badiashile to improve, and yeah, sometimes we're not speaking that much about the environment of a club, in the locker room, and yeah, it's important for a player to feel good in the locker room, and the fact that there are a lot of French speakers in the Chelsea locker room could help him. Yeah, definitely.
Specifically a difficult and challenging time for Chelsea this season. I think it's not he's not going to have a preseason. He's coming into a very demanding fixture schedule. If he's going to start playing this month, for instance, which may be possible, we've got games against Man City, we've got games against Liverpool. So it's a testing time. So hopefully he can integrate quickly with the dressing room and the players around him. So we mentioned earlier, I read about Manchester United's interest in him. I believe it was around 2020. I may have got the year wrong there. I think it was around that time that apparently Man United inquired about him and Monaco wanted to keep him. And, it's curious because, that could have been at an even younger stage of his career. He could have made that jump to one of the biggest clubs in the world. Sort of the context around why that move didn't happen. And I guess, from his point of view and his development, it's clearly worked out for him that, he didn't make that jump at that point.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm not a specialist about transfer windows and everything, so I think I didn't have the whole pictures at that time, and why he finally decided to stay in Monaco. But he started this journey so young. He already played something like 130 games, I think, at a professional stage, which is a lot. 50 games, I guess, with the French national team and young French national teams, which is a lot also. But I feel like he knows that he knew, sorry, that he was on the right path in a club. Monaco is good, for young players to improve, because they are there is no pressure, if I can say it this way. It's not the same thing when you're playing for Marseille here in France, for example. So yeah, it was a good place for him to develop, and you're playing European games also, which is important. Then he had good managers also, because he played a lot of games under Niko Kovac, and he improved a lot with him. Then Philippe Clement is also a good manager, I think, and especially to develop young players. So I think that there were no hurry to move to a big club at that time. So no, to me, he made the good decision staying in Monaco, and now I feel like he's ready to play at in a big club. And he, for example, like I told you, he's first called up with Les Bleus, with the French national team. He was very cool, just taking it as an opportunity, and he played well that night. So I think it will not be a problem mentally speaking. I think he's ready to play at the top level.
I know that Niko Kovac as well, another top French talent in Aurelien Tchouameni, who Chelsea are interested in, and some of us are a little bit we're quite disappointed that Chelsea didn't sign him before he made the move to Real Madrid, and so there's a coach who I think has done some good work, and it seems like Monaco have done some good work in recent years developing those young players. Yeah. I've heard about it. I think you mentioned it in one of your early answers about sort of the flaws within his game. I mean, is that something that he's going to find maybe a little bit of a struggle at Chelsea when? If there's not as much pressure in the environment at Monaco to say Chelsea, where the spotlight is on you, Chelsea are one of the biggest clubs in the Premier League and expected to win most weeks. Is that something it's going to be a tough adjustment period for him as a player?
I think 1 year ago I would have told you that it could have been a problem, but no, I feel like he is ready and more mature, and it seems like he realized a lot of stuff this past few weeks, few months. I feel like he understood a lot of things since last summer or September, and that he took a lot of confidence also. And so, no, honestly, I feel like he's ready to join you guys.
Yeah, and I do think that I've seen some criticism aimed at him as a young defender of making mistakes, and I'm like, well, finding any player in football, no matter how good they are, they're going to make mistakes, and especially a young defender is going to make. That's how they learn. So it's like I don't think that's a very valid point. They're supposed to make mistakes to get better. So hopefully we will see that, and we will see a player get the confidence and backing at Chelsea to become better. Final question, it's a big one. It regards his sort of ceiling. What do you think the potential is? Because Chelsea apparently committing a 6-year contract to this player, and that is a show of faith, and they're doing it for a lot of young players at the moment, the new ownership. Do you think the potential is there for him to become one of the top centre backs in European football?
It's always hard to be sure 100% about a player, but like you just said, a young defender needs to do some mistakes to improve. Of course, I think, like I told you, we realized a lot of stuff these past few weeks, playing every 3 days, every 5 days here in France. So he already played a lot of games, so he already improved a lot. I don't feel like he's at the beginning of his journey. You know what I mean? He already played 100 of games here in France, so that's already a lot. I know you guys are about to sign Enzo Fernandez, for example. He just played something like I don't know, but 25 games in European football, for example. I guess it's 25 or something. And so Badiashile played, fifth more games than him, which is a lot. So yeah, I think he's ready to make that step. Of course, it's a big one, but yeah, I feel like he's ready, and I think we will see if you guys will go for a while with Graham Potter, but he's good at developing young players also, and I feel like Badiashile game fits with what Potter tried to do in Chelsea. Because Badiashile likes to defend by moving forward, to put a lot of pressure against the opponent striker, this kind of stuff. So, and he, like I told you, is really comfortable with his fits. He likes to play good passes. So I feel like he's ready, and I feel like the potential is huge. And then let's see. It's all about context, it is with young players, but I'm not worried at all for him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, hopefully that money will be well invested, and I think that is something, particularly on the left side of the defence, where he's mainly going to be playing for Chelsea. We think there've been a lot of fans who, and just people watching Chelsea, have felt that we've lacked a dominant presence or an aggressive presence since Antonio Rudiger left, who of course did so much of that work for Thomas Tuchel, really pressing up, and that was a part of Chelsea's pressing game and how we were able to get on top of opponents. So hopefully he can bring that, even though he is much younger than when we signed Rudiger. The potential is absolutely there, and hopefully we will see some impact for the rest of this season and moving ahead. Thank you so much, Timothy, for joining me today. As I do with all my guests, just give you a chance now for you to shout out where people can find your work online.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, wherever you want. And yeah, I think we're gonna publish a big report about N'Golo Kante in a few weeks. So I think you guys will be interesting by it. I hope it will be a good one. And so yeah, I'm writing on European football. So yeah, you can follow me on Twitter if you want. And thank you very much for having me on it. It was a pleasure to chat with you again. So yeah, thank you very much.
No worries. And hopefully you can get back to Stamford Bridge and we can meet up again. And hopefully that will be, I'm going to call you like the lucky charm regarding Chelsea. If you can arrive before like a massive Champions League game and then we win again, then I will know it's you. It's nothing to do with the players. But absolutely, as you said, we'll put the links to Timothy's work in the description box below. You can go and follow him, go and follow his great work. And that interesting piece about N'Golo Kante, which is obviously a big discussion point and debate point amongst Chelsea fans regarding his future and fitness problems and what's going on. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads on the channel. If you're listening on the podcast feed as well, make sure to follow and check out all the links as well in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.